This is not good. Mark said he's going to surprise me with a little song to start the show. Mark, we don't do Christmas music here on January 10th. I'm sick of it. I don't want to hear it.
This is just winter music. It's not Christmas
music.
This
is a Christmas song. There's no winter music. Winter music's not a genre. There's no such thing as winter music, Mark. I don't know. I mean, I know that you and John are the music gurus here, and I'm just the talk guy. But there's no such thing as winter music. What are you talking about?
You're probably right.
This is wholly unacceptable to drop that on me on a day when it is snowing once again and you're just rubbing salt in the wound. That's all you're doing here.
You still have the tree up, though?
No, mine's down.
Oh.
Is yours
up?
up?
Still have ours up.
Yours
and
is up?
Lights.
When's it coming down?
Usually we let it go till end of January.
End of January. Ooh, that's a long stretch.
Last year we let it go till Valentine's Day, but we had a new baby, so we were kind of...
Yeah, that's different. Man, you let it go till the end of January?
Yeah, my wife just loves Christmas, so I try to let her have some extra happy time.
Well, that's true. I mean, we all get those January blues, I would say, when the new year starts. But, man, the roads are dicey out there. I was just talking to some of my friends down the hall with the other stations, and the roads are worse today than they were on Tuesday morning. Now, not Monday morning, but Tuesday morning. I would say they're worse than they were on Tuesday. Be careful. I saw a guy with his pickup truck, left lane, 435, tailgating a couple of cars. I'm like, dude, back off. What are you doing? He's going like 65, goes right up behind another little sedan. You know, he's doing his whole shtick. It's like, stop it, buddy. Not this morning. Just be safe. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you got to stay home. It's like, it's not awful. If you just be safe, it's going to be okay. The problem is some people do not know what that means, it seems like. I did a Good Samaritan duty of the day. I helped the guy dig out of a ramp on the K10 this morning, so I checked that off my list for the morning. He was stuck in a snowbank on K10, getting on to K10 on the ramp. And I see him there. He's digging out with he had a shovel, but it was like a shovel you do yard work with, you know, like one of those metal ends with a pointy end to it. It wasn't a snow shovel. And he's struggling. And I'm like, all right, I get out of the car. Say, you need a hand? He's like, yeah, you got a shovel? I do have a shovel. So I've got a big old snow shovel in the car, and I hand it to him. I'm like, all right, I'll help you out. I'm not using the snow shovel. You take the shovel, you dig out, and I'll use your little shovel and help out where I can. So he starts digging out and digging out and digging out. And I'm like, is this a all-wheel drive or what do you got here? It was a small sedan, Mercedes sedan. And he's like, actually, it's all-wheel drive. I'm like, how did you do this to yourself in all-wheel drive? And then what I realized, and this is the case for, I think, a lot of people, it's not just about what kind of car you have and whether or not you have all-wheel drive, because I had front-wheel drive and I got around okay being smart and safe. He didn't know what he was doing. So he digs out the front of his car, right? And he's not going anywhere. And then I turn around. I'm kind of helping him out, trying to help him navigate this whole deal. I go to the back of the car. I'm like, dude, you got to dig out the back. You can't reverse yourself to get forward. That's your problem. He's like, okay, all right. So he goes back there. He starts digging out. And then he falls in the snow. And it was kind of like dramatic. He's like, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh. I'm like, I'm not shoveling for you, buddy. I just stopped here to help you, okay? You got my shovel. You got to keep... And he was like maybe my age, maybe a little younger. He was just very dramatic about it. He just falls face first in the snow on the side of the ramp on the K10. I'm like, dude, I got to go to work. Do you want to use my shovel or not? Get your butt up and start shoveling and stop crying about how tired you are. Oh, my goodness.
I was trying to get my little car up the driveway last night to get it into the garage because it was parked in the driveway, but we have a slanted driveway. So just even trying to get it like over the top, I had to get the back tires out, just like what you were saying.
Yeah, you got to get the back tires out. So then he digs out the back, and I'm helping him, navigate back and forth. He's just trying to get it in the drive and spin out of there. And I'm like, dude, you got to go back and forth. You got to reverse it, front, back. You got to go back and forth and kind of ease back into the road. And he wasn't understanding it. Mm-hmm. So I'm guiding him. And then at one point, I'm also thinking to myself, if this guy just plows in the drive, I'm afraid he's going to lose control of the car and hit my car. Now, my car was obviously in park about, 10 yards in front of where his car was. But I had such little faith in this guy. I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, he better not rip this thing in the drive. And then I made sure I was out of the way, because the last thing I want to do is be standing there on the ramp at 5 a.m. in the snow, and this guy has no control over his vehicle. So I made sure I was out of the way, and I also made sure that he was not going to blast in the drive and then put himself into the snowbank on the left side of the street. So just as much as anything else, I realized it's not only like, do you have four-wheel? Do you have all-wheel? I'm watching this guy and realizing you can't put a price tag on being a dumbass. And I say that with all due respect. He was a nice guy, but he just didn't know what he was doing. So just take your time, be careful, and if you got to be out today, you're not going to set any records. That's it. You're not going to set any records, John.
Buddy, I'm out. I'm cruising along. I'm making great time. I'm climb the hill to Antioch, go up to College there, a quick trip to an empty grill. P.S. And by the way, don't waste your time this morning. But I come in here and I make it all the way down, and I make the left turn to come into our parking lots, which are kind of off the main road.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I slide and bang my tire off the curb.
Oh, no.
After making it all the way in through here.
All the way from Grandview.
Just coming in, right? Just right out here in the parking lot. I don't know what happened to me.
Is the car okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just one of those deals where I'm turning and I make my right turn, and all of a sudden, fishtail here came on around, whack into the curb because it was there to stop it at least. I didn't come all the way around.
Good.
But I'm like, wow, all the way to here.
Yeah, you got all the way here from Grandview.
Yeah, 100 yards from the front door.
And that's where you slide out.
Right.
Well, like I said, take your time, be safe, be careful. And I would say the roads are worse than they were on Tuesday morning. So if you took off Monday or you stayed at home Monday, you were back on Tuesday. They are worse than they were on Tuesday morning. So if you take your time, though, you will be all right. Don't be the guy that's tailgating people in the left lane and trying to get somewhere super fast, because I promise you it's not going to happen. And, it's okay to be a good Samaritan. But can I tell you something, too? And this is so sad that I thought this, but I'm getting onto the ramp at K10 to come to work this morning, and I saw this guy stuck in the snowbank who I ended up handing a shovel to and helping out. And my first thought, my initial thought was, do I help him, or is this some kind of a scam setup? Is that wrong of me to think that in this day and age? Because you hear about it, people fake that they blew out a tire, or they fake that their car's broken down, and then they rob people. It happens. You see stories like it all the time. And I'm thinking to myself, at 5 a.m, it's pitch black. There aren't a lot of cars out here. So if, God forbid, this is not a good situation, I don't want to find myself in any kind of trouble here. I'm just going to throw that out there, that it did cross my mind. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to take the 0.1% chance that that's not the case and just help this guy out.
That's good of you. It reminded me of Marty Schottenheimer's philosophy. He was a running football coach. He didn't like to pass the ball. 3 things were going to happen, and 2 things weren't good. It's going to be incomplete or intercepted, right?
Yeah.
To your point, you're either going to get a DA that can't dig himself out, or you're going to get robbed. Only one thing good can happen. You help the guy, and everybody goes on. Right?
Yes.
Now we're getting into that territory.
Yeah. And when he fell face first in the snow dramatically and was like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm like, buddy, I got 2 more minutes. I got to go to work. So you got 2 minutes to keep digging yourself out here. I'm not here for a sympathy card, all right? So let's get it moving here. Keep digging. Keep using the shovel, because that shovel's coming with me in about 120 seconds. So let's go there, Chief. But he was able to dig himself out. So I'm happy to help, but don't be that guy on the ramp of K10 today. Just take your time, ease onto the roads, and you'll be all right. 913-408-7957 on the text line. Pete, doesn't sound like he had enough energy to rob you. That's very well done. Yeah, that may have been it. I don't know. Oh, man. Well, we're here on a Friday. We're grateful that you're here with us as we get it going on 95.7 FM. Speaking of weather, the California incompetence, and it is government incompetence, continues. It is sad to see. It is deadly to see what's going on, and it is costly to the tune of tens of billions of dollars. We'll get you the latest examples of government incompetency, and it ties into something that happened in Kansas City the other night, coming up next on KCMO. It is the quintessential example of government incompetence. That's what we are seeing unfold right now in Los Angeles County. From the governor to the mayor to the fire chief, it is a failure of government at every single level. And as of this morning, here's what we've got with these 3 wildfires that have broken out across Southern California. You've got the Palisades fire, which is the biggest one that has been burning from the get-go. Yesterday morning, it was 17,000 acres burnt. Now we're up to 20,000 acres. It's only 6% contained. The Eaton fire, second biggest one, 13,000 acres, 0% contained. The Hearst fire, 671 acres. That's 10% contained. And then you've got the Lydia fire, 348 acres, 60% contained. And the Kenneth fire, 959 acres burned and not yet contained. But they did arrest an arson suspect yesterday. So about 4:30 in the afternoon yesterday, L.A. police responded to reports of a man attempting to light a fire in the in Ybarra Road in Woodland Hills. Now, I looked this up, Woodland Hills. Now, I'm not super familiar with Southern California, really at all. I think I've been there once in my life. So it's not an area of the country I know well at all. But I looked up Woodland Hills, and every home is $1 million for the most part. I mean, there's a couple of townhouses for $700,000. So it's a very expensive part of California. I mean, you've got like 2,000 square foot homes going for $1.5 million. I mean, this is big time stuff here. This is not a cheap place to live. 2,400 square feet is going to run you $1.8 million. So that's what that part of the country is all about. So what you've got going on now is this guy, this arson suspect gets arrested. Residents spotted him trying to light a fire on Ybarra Road. And basically they did a citizen's arrest. They held him down until the cops showed up and he got arrested. Now, we don't know how these fires started, to be clear. But there is a growing belief that arsonists may have played a role, and it may be ultimately about trying to do things like loot some of these houses in some of these neighborhoods. In Southern California, which has become pretty lawless in recent years, as we all have talked about and highlighted. So you've got all these different levels of government just letting people down. And speaking of the looters, this was a report that I saw, and it came from local television in L.A., KTLA 5, reporting on the looting that they're dealing with out there in Cali.
I was getting my whole family out. All you have in your mind is just you're in survival mode at that point. I saw men coming into our neighborhoods. Police confirmed it. She had this to say. Take a listen.
It was wild. We just started seeing all these cars pull up, doors open, and groups of men running up our street, going up to the doors of these houses. And we weren't sure what was going on. I'm thinking, are these people here to help my neighbors? I hope so. And I left, and then my husband talked to the police and said, what are those guys doing? These guys don't live here. Get them out. My next door neighbor said, his quote, there were like 100 people that came up on scooters and were trying to get into any and all houses on the street.
And did you physically see police officers stopping them?
I didn't, but it's not to say that they weren't. It was so incredibly chaotic, and I was so worried about my big family and getting them out of our old tinderbox of a house that I was just focused on them first.
I love how she says there, yeah, these people don't live here. They just showed up in the dozens, and they're running up to homes trying to loot them. This is third world country type stuff out there in L.A., what's happening right now. And then you have this, right? So over the last couple of days, you have had a bunch of evacuations. If you haven't seen the videos and the photos, there is gridlock in parts of Los Angeles as people are being forced to evacuate. But they can't go anywhere. I mean, there's normally gridlock in L.A. Never mind you say to 150,000 people in a certain part of town, you got to get out, and you got to get out now. They've got nowhere. They can't get out of there. I mean, no one's moving. And then Los Angeles County makes this mistake. Remember the other night, Sunday night, We all got, at least on the Kansas side of the state line, we got that emergency alert to our phones. Stay off the road, state of emergency, don't travel if you're in Kansas. Well, they sent that out in Los Angeles County for a certain part of the county. The problem is, it was a mistake.
We're just mapping out here are under mandatory evacuations. And obviously you can hear all of our phones are going off some type of alert, an evacuation warning, it looks like.
Yeah, my alert reads, This is an emergency message from the LA County Fire Department. An evacuation warning has been issued in your area.
Yeah.
This is what this looks like.
Remain vigilant of any threats and be ready to evacuate. Gather loved ones, pets, and supplies. Continue to monitor local weather news and the webpage alertla.org for more information.
Yeah, so these alerts come, based on where you are.
It's like on my phone.
Yeah, and here we are in West LA, and we're getting an alert. We'll have to look into why. It would not be from what we're talking about right here up to the north.
That courtesy of Good Day Los Angeles, and that was a mistake. Yes. An emergency alert issuing an evacuation warning for all of Los Angeles County was sent out yesterday. And it turns out it was an accident. Just to be clear, that went out to 9.6 million people. That is the population of Los Angeles County. And it was only intended to be sent out to residents of Calabasas and Agora Hills, which is situated near the Kenneth Fire in Woodland Hills. And they accidentally sent it out to the entire county. Los Angeles County clarifying on a social media post at 4:21 in the afternoon that the initial alert was not meant for the entire county. CBS News quoted a local official who said the false evacuation alert was due to a technical error. You cannot screw up local government response more than Los Angeles County has screwed it up over the last few days. That is an insane mistake to make. I mean, you've got a county of 9.6 million people, and they sent out a mass text alert saying evacuate when it was only intended to be for people in a certain part of the county. What a butchered job this city and this county has done. And it goes to show you, local government matters. I know it's not sexy. I mean, we're coming off a few month stretch where it was all Trump, Kamala, debate, presidency. And listen, it's good for the show. It's good for ratings. It's fun to talk about. Yes, it definitely matters for the future of our country. But when push comes to shove, whether it's snowstorms in Kansas City or it's wildfires in Los Angeles, the people that are running your local government, who only 15 to 20% of the population end up voting for, will play a huge role in your day-to-day life. And you need them to be competent. And in this case, they are far from it. 913-408-7957. Yeah, not a great spot for Joe Biden yesterday. You know, they do the whole Jimmy Carter funeral thing, which we'll talk about coming up top of next hour at 7:05. Then he does a press conference with Kamala Harris. I guess they're wanting to look like they're still in charge of something around here. And Biden did not have one of his better moments, which is saying something when he said this.
Madam Vice President, I know you're directly affected, so you fire away. No pun intended.
All right, as the president throws it to the vice president.
There's Jake Tapper being like, all right, we're going to bail out of this. Getting set to talk about the fires. You would think that you would want to hear something that Kamala Harris had to say there, but Jake Tapper's like, all right, Madame Vice President, I know you're directly affected by this, so fire away. No pun intended.
Come on, man.
Come on, Joe. I mean, people are losing everything, buddy. You got to be kidding me. Victor's in Parkville. He's on KCMO. What's up, Victor?
Oh, good morning, Pete. As a former resident of California, I could tell you, you know what? You get the government you deserve. Thomas Jefferson. If either A, you voted for it, or B, you didn't vote, and you get stuck with it. And if the ones I really feel sorry for are the ones in the lower middle class or middle class who can't move, but are kind of stuck there. But these wealthy people who are in Altadena or the Palisades or whatever it is, they had the opportunity to get out when they wanted to. So I got no sympathy for them. This is what you wanted. This is what you get. You tried to recall the governor. The governor doesn't give a rat's because he's more concerned about some little smelt fish than the water. You tried to recall the mayor. Didn't happen. So, I don't care. And frankly, I'm getting sick and tired of hearing about it. I mean, I stayed out of it. I mean, I used to live in the San Fernando Valley, which is right by Woodland Hills. So the guy's trying to burn down the San Fernando Valley, and I lived in the San Gabriel Valley. I've lived all over Southern California.
So this is your back.
This
is the part of the state that you lived in. For how long?
For the most part, from 1968 until I joined the Navy in '79, and then I went back after I got out. So late '80s or mid '80s until 2005.
So do you still have friends there and family there that are dealing with this right now?
Not specifically in those areas. My wife's mother lives in Sherman Oaks, Tarzana area. I've got family that lives in the Covina, West Covina area in the San Gabriel Valley, and then over in by Arrowhead, which, I mean, we had the Big Bear fires not too long ago, and it burned because they didn't thin out the dry wood. California is a freaking mess when it comes to natural resources. They don't want to do controlled burns. They don't want to do anything to manage the environment, but yet they don't want to let it do its natural thing, which is burn out the underbrush.
Well, that's what I mean. And they've been denying, and they've been not doing that for years and years. I mean, it's gotten worse lately, but it's been years of dealing with this, right? And not taking care of the underbrush and just doing those controlled burns.
Oh, absolutely. My wife used to live in Oak Park, which is right outside of Calabasas, which is right over the hill from Malibu. So, if this Malibu fire keeps going, where she used to live, it's toast. And $1 million houses, just about everything in California is a $1 million house. These old houses that my mom owned for $27,000 and sold it in '73, it's worth like $650,000, $700,000 now.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's nuts. But you know what? Like I said, you get what you deserve. This is what you voted for. You voted for this. Overwhelmingly, California, you voted for this. You voted for open borders, so you got a whole bunch of illegals in there. You voted for people living on the streets. Now you're overrun with homeless people. You voted for protecting this, that, and the other thing. And so now what you've got nature taking over. You got fentanyl on the streets. It's insane. I really don't care.
Well, thank you, Victor. Appreciate the local perspective, my man. I appreciate that. That is basically what Adam Carolla said yesterday. He went on Megyn Kelly's show, and Adam Carolla is a lifelong Southern Californian. You may know him from his days as a comedian, The Man Show. He used to do that show. That was probably when he hit it big on The Man Show with Jimmy Kimmel, when Jimmy Kimmel actually was a man. The two of them did a show together, and it was very funny. Late 90s-ish. And now he's a big-time podcaster. He's, conservative, libertarian, whatever you want to call him. He was one of the first guys into the podcast game. And he's been in Southern California, I believe, if not all of his life, most of his life. And he went on Megyn Kelly's show yesterday. And he said something very similar to what Victor just had to say. Here he is.
Gavin Newsom, got recalled essentially, and he still won. We had a choice between Rick Caruso, a sort of qualified, able-bodied businessman for mayor. We ended up with Karen Bass. We sort of get what we deserve. And I do want to say to all the people in Malibu, very blue, Palisades, very blue, Santa Monica, very blue. You guys like all this. This is who you voted for these people. You're sitting around right now going, how come the fire hydrants don't work? Where's the mayor? Why is she out of the country? What's going on with the aqueducts? You voted for these people. This is who you voted for. You live in Santa Monica. You live in these places. This is how you roll. This is what you agree with. You think it's more important to have a woman of color versus a qualified person. You think it's more important to have a lesbian running the fire department than a qualified person. Well, you asked for it. You got it. Now your house is on fire.
Literally, your house is on fire. That is Adam Carolla on Megyn Kelly's show yesterday, basically echoing more or less what Victor just said. I don't know who said it better, Adam Carolla or Victor in Parkville. Oh, gosh. So both well-spoken. But he's making the same point there. And that comes from a lifelong Southern Californian in Adam Carolla. People sit there and they say, oh, wait, you mean this stuff actually matters? You mean having competent local government officials can make a difference in my life, can be the difference between my house burning down and not burning down? Yes. At least in that part of the country, the answer is yes. And there's going to be a cost for the rest of us here. They're talking about potentially up to $150 billion in damage. $150 billion in damage that the government is now going to, federal government, meaning us, going to have to bail them out on. Bert's in Polo. Hey, Bert, you're on KCMO. Good morning.
Hey, Pete, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Happy Friday. What's up?
Hey, with the stupidity of the government and everybody that runs stuff out in California, I think they ought to make them be self-insured out there. Because you just wait. You get your insurance premiums next year, wait, and they're going to go through the roof. And if they can't maintain their force for these forest fires and stuff, make them pay for it. Why should we as Americans have to pay for it?
Yeah. Well, Bert, that is something that came up the last couple of days, thank you, man, where State Farm dropped thousands of people last spring. And they did it in the wake of a bill California passed that basically tried to cap insurance premiums. So they weren't going to let State Farm charge what State Farm felt it needed to charge to take on the risk of insuring some of these homes in Southern California. So State Farm dropped them. And then these individuals, if they wanted insurance, would have to do it through the state of California. You want to talk about a mess? That's a mess. So State Farm basically told the state to pound sand. They said, you're not going to tell us how much we can charge insurance premiums to take on the risk on these homes that we believe are at high risk because you guys won't do what needs to be done to protect these places. And now a lot of these people don't have insurance. So the state creates a mess, right? They don't do what needs to be done to make sure that the people and their homes are as safe as they possibly can be. Then the insurance companies come back and say, gosh, we got to charge a lot of money to insure these people because we don't like our odds here. And then the state screws up the problem even worse by saying you can't charge that much money. We're going to tell you how much you can charge on your premiums. And the insurance companies say, you know what? We're done. We're out. We're just getting out of the business here. You guys are such a joke. You're such a mess. We're not going to insure anybody. And they leave. Imagine if State Farm didn't drop some of those people. You hate to say it, but you know what would have happened? They'd be in a world of hurt, and premiums in Kansas and Missouri would go up. That's what would ultimately happen. They'd have to make up the money somewhere. Government incompetency, top to bottom. I mean, I don't know how much time the Chiefs want me to spend or any of us to spend on surveys about their stadiums, but at about 15 minutes, I'm tapped out. And once I realized, taking this survey last night, that I still had probably 10 minutes left, I said, I can't spend all that much time. I mean, I spent about 2-3 hours the night before prepping for the show, and I wanted to talk about this, but I can't spend my whole night doing surveys for the Chiefs, John. I just can't do it, man.
Seems like it might be a little bit of an essay type task.
It's just too long.
Write down some stuff.
It's too long.
I can't imagine trying to provide all these choices for you to choose from.
Well, that's the thing. The choices, and I'll give you examples here, there were just too many damn choices, and it was way too complicated. So I got an email last night from the Chiefs, and you can fill this out at Chiefs.com. You can go take the survey yourself. But I got an email last night, and they said, hey, we want your feedback. And there were 2 surveys that you can take. One is about the Chiefs getting a new stadium. The other one is about renovating Arrowhead. Now, I decided to take the new stadium survey.
So you make a choice there. Is that
your
first choice?
That's your first choice.
Okay.
And then, to their credit, they say, hey, set aside 15 to 20 minutes to take the survey. Now, I would say it's more like 20 to 30 minutes. That's just me. But I mean, they are asking you everything out of the gates. First off, they're asking you, where you live. They're asking you zip code.
Stuff about you.
Yes, they're asking you about your income, all these different things.
Who are you?
Yes, they want to know everything about you except for they need an email address. So, they want to know all your information. That's fine, whatever. Take my information, Clark. Please, have it. And then they start asking about, at least on the new stadium survey, they start asking you things like, hey, put in order what kind of stadium you want. Do you want an open-air stadium? Do you want an open-air stadium that's partially covered? Do you want an open-air stadium with a canopy? Do you want one with a roof and natural light? Or do you want a fully closed dome?
Ranked choice voting.
That's what it is.
1 through 5.
Literally, you put them 1 through 5. Mm-hmm. Did you take the survey yet?
No, sir.
Okay,
no,
you know where this is going.
Surveys,
okay, yeah, you've been around the block. You know how this goes. So you stack them in order. Then they ask you, what order would you want for a stadium location? The current location, Truman Sports Complex, Kansas City Metro on the Missouri side, Kansas City Metro on the Kansas side. Now, you know me. I'm a current guy. I'm all about keeping it where it's at. Don't fix what isn't broken. So I put current location at the top of the list there.
Mm-hmm.
So they go on, and then they start talking about PSLs, which if you don't know what a PSL is, that's a personal seat license.
Which gets you what?
It gets you the right to buy the tickets.
To buy the seat.
That's all it does.
Place in line.
So it gives you the right to buy your tickets, which many NFL teams do. But you are talking about spending thousands of dollars to have the right to spend thousands of dollars.
Yeah. You haven't bought the ticket yet. You ain't got a seat.
Yes.
From what I've also heard, it would also save you a seat for if you want to go to a concert there. That would also be your seat.
Select events.
Yes.
That's the tricky part, though. All right? Like, you might get those seats for Morgan Wallen, let's say, but you won't get them for Taylor Swift, potentially.
Yeah.
They can pick and choose which events you will have the rights to buy those tickets to. All right?
They want to be involved in all of them, so they get to they're actually picked.
Yes,
I think
it makes it very clear. They explain the whole PSL idea, the personal seat license, and it says basically you own the seats for Chiefs games and select events, meaning they can exclude whatever events they want if they can make more money off them. Let's be very clear.
If Taylor says it's all our money here.
Yeah, or that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it works that way, too.
Yes, exactly. So then they explain how the PSL program works. Now, I was in New York starting my career when the Jets and the Giants built their new stadium and went to the PSL program. And what happened is that people who had New York Giants season tickets for decades, I mean, going back generations through families, lost their seats. Couldn't afford it. They got priced out. And, that is a franchise that had a multi-year waiting list to get season tickets. I mean, they would be passed down through generations. You could get on a waiting list, and you'd hope that years down the road you might have a chance. Well, they build the new stadium. They implement PSLs. And what happens? The little guy, the lifelong fan, gets screwed.
I had a cull on the remodel. My dad had bought seats, so he had them since 72 when it opened. But once they wanted the 3-5-year thing, he's like, you can keep them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a cull already, and now another one would be coming.
That's what's happened to a lot of people. But what I will say about the Chiefs, I'm not aware, there's no PSL program right now. So basically what they're doing right now
that was
is
for club level.
That was, yes.
Reiterated, yeah.
Yes.
Back in the day.
What they do now is, they just play the free market game, right? I mean, they charge you for seats.
Dynamic seating, right?
I know that prices go up. That's fair. They're back-to-back Super Bowl champs. It should be more money than if they were 4-12 every year, 4-13 every year.
More money for the Raiders than the Panthers game.
I get
Stuff
it.
like that.
Yeah, that's totally acceptable to me. But the PSL thing is where you say to yourself, okay, listen, I get it. You guys got to run a business. But where do you draw that fine line between being loyal to the customers who have been loyal to you for decades, but then also trying to run a free market enterprise? I'm not against businesses making money. I'm not. I'm a free market guy through and through. But at the same time, I do think customer loyalty in a unique environment like sports should matter. It's not like it's McDonald's where it's like, hey, if we can get away with charging another quarter for a quarter pounder, we're going to do it. Like that's fine. Customer loyalty is not as big a deal when you talk about McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts and places like that. Sports teams are different. Sports teams, without the loyalty of the fan, you really don't have anything. And that's where I think this business model is different. And while it applies to free market principles, there is a line that you can cross that I just think is inherently wrong, John.
No, it's a great point. It's interesting to compare sports league models around the world. In England with soccer, there you get a loyalty card, and you can get points for traveling to an away game. It's easier to travel in England. It'd be like traveling the central time zone here, basically up and down. But you earn your points for attendance and for games, and then that gives you access to certain things. It rewards loyalty.
Yeah, and it should. Yeah. And there's got to be an element of that with sports. So then what this survey does, and this is the part where I started to just get annoyed, all right? Here's what it asks you. They give you 5 options, and there's 10 different questions with 5 options. So you've got to think about 50 options here. 50. And there are 10 different scenarios. Each scenario has 5 options. It's like, guys, these are trick questions, by the way. So, and work through this with me here. I know it's early. Drink the coffee because I'm going to try to explain this as simply as I can.
You can see why they said you need 15 to 20 minutes.
And it's not 50. It's 30 minutes easy.
Easy.
All right. I got through 2 of them. I was 20 minutes in. I said, screw this. I don't have time for this. So here's one example. There are 5 options, and they show you a map of the theoretical stadium. They show you where your seats would theoretically be, and they say, here's a general admission seat in the end zone of the lower bowl. The seat coverage is an enclosed stadium. The cost per seat is $3,700. The PSL fee is $9,000. That's option 1. Option 2, premium general admission seat. Behind the end zone, suite level. Cost per seat, $2,500. PSL, $7,600. Next one, club seat. Corner end zone. Cost per seat, $2,500. PSL, $18,000. Next one, general admission. Center sideline, mid-bowl. Cost per seat, $3,700, PSL, $13,000. Club seat, 5th option. Sideline, field club access. All-inclusive food and beverage. Cost per seat, $13,000, PSL, $60,000. Which one of those 5 would you want? So I start doing the whole thing where what you really have to do is figure out, okay, it's not just about picking the lowest price ticket. And it's not just about picking the lowest price PSL. You might be better off crunching the numbers, and this is what I started to do because this is where my mind went. You might be better off with a slightly higher PSL because that's a one-time fee, personal seat license, and the lower ticket price than the higher ticket price with the lower PSL because what you've got to do is extrapolate over how many years it would take you to break even on the higher PSL with the lower ticket price or the higher ticket price with the lower PSL. So then I'm like, I'm going to start crunching these numbers. And then I say, this is ridiculous. This is insulting. The team knows what it wants to do. And I say this with all due respect as somebody who goes to a lot of games and enjoys it and has a great time and loves rooting on this team. I'm not spending an hour on this when they know what they want to do and they want to make me feel like I'm part of the process. My time is more valuable. It started to piss me off. My time is more valuable than this, guys.
And to your point, when you ran through the options, you say, and which of these do you want? My next question is what, for my birthday or anniversary? Right? Just put that down and send it back to them.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, guys, yeah, sure. Those seats sound nice at the club level. $60,000 for the PSL.
Can you chopper me in?
Yeah. Yes, exactly right. And that's where I went. That was just one of the 10 scenarios they wanted me to pick from. And if I'm going to do something like that, I want to do it right. And then I said, I don't have the time to do it right now. And then I got to the conclusion of, I don't care enough to do it right. These are billionaires that, with all due respect, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I think the people that run the Chiefs are good people. I think Clark Hunt's a good man. He's a Christian man. I think he runs the operation the right way. But in the end, is he really interested in wanting me to spend an hour of my time, which I believe is valuable? Others may not. That's fine. But when you got 3 little kids running around, my time is pretty valuable. If I'm going to spend an hour by myself doing something, it better be something I want to do or I have to do. And I came to the conclusion last night that I was like, you know what? They don't care enough about my opinion for me to spend an hour on this. They just don't. I felt that they were trying to drive home a conclusion that they already know the answer to.
Yeah.
And that's when I threw my hands up and I said, I'm done.
Dear Clark, I went in for as cheap as possible. You already got me for $60 in the parking lot. Come on, man. That's it.
You're right.
I just want in for as few bucks as possible here.
That's the name of the game, man. 913-408-7957. If you've taken the survey, if you've done it, I do want to hear from you at 913-408-7957 because I just stopped last night. I stopped. And maybe you feel differently than I do on these surveys. Maybe you're like, no, it's great. They want me they want to hear what I think. And I would have been fine with that. But give me a 10-minute survey. Please, please. Don't ask me for an hour of my time. Because, by the way, if the voters of Jackson County had voted differently, this would have all been answered anyway. We would have known exactly what would have happened in April if Jackson County extended the sales tax, and they didn't. I tried. I was trying to do my community a solid, try to do my sports team a solid here in the Chiefs last night, and they have 2 surveys now that I got emailed about. You can find it on Chiefs.com about the new stadium proposal or idea of a new stadium and renovating Arrowhead.
Which one did you answer real quick?
The new survey. The new stadium.
New stadium.
Yes.
You were answering. Okay.
Yes. And 15 minutes in, I said, this is crazy. I've answered 15 questions, and now I've got 10 more, and each of those 10 questions has five options in it, saying if your seat was here, 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 or here, which one would you pick based on seat location, seat price, and PSL price, which is a personal seat license. And I threw my hands up. I said, it's too much.
Can you use a compass or a protractor? Slight rule something.
It's just like I feel like I'm back in college doing like a calc exam or something. Oh, my gosh. Jeff and Olathe, what's up, buddy?
Well, I was listening to you describe the process, and billionaires are billionaires for a reason. So it sounds like they're going to take all that data from these Chiefs fans who are going to, feel the goodwill of being a stakeholder in Chiefs Kingdom by answering these questions, but then they're going to pay some consultancy firm to take all that data and give them some sort of a picture of what the people want.
So are you suggesting I should continue on, or are you saying that they're going to come to the conclusion that they want to anyway?
Well, I'm kind of saying that you figured out that you were kind of a rube in the whole scheme.
Yes.
And your time was more valuable.
Yes, exactly right. And do you agree with that?
I mean, like I said, billionaires are billionaires for a reason, and some people are going to do it, and they'll take the free labor, the free effort.
Yeah. Well, I see what you're saying there. Thank you, Jeff. No, that's a good point. I mean, they could do is they could round up a few thousand people, kind of like you do with radio or TV ratings,
right, yeah,
and kind of have a mixture of people around the metro, different income levels, different zip codes, and try to pay them to come to some kind of conclusion by sitting down for an hour and taking this test or taking this whatever you want to call it survey. But instead, it's like, let's just get a mishmash of people, and whoever wants to take it can take it.
It's raw data collection, and you would have to pay someone to collect that for you. So you're doing it yourself, and then we're all willingly doing it, thinking, oh, they want my opinion.
Yeah.
It draws out those of us who don't answer the texts and the phone. See, now you've drawn yourself out going, I never sign up for those Super Bowl trips. That's how you get on the mailing list. Uh-oh.
Rick and Kearney, what's going on, man?
Well, it sounds to me like they're trying to turn football into the new sport of kings. Look out, polo.
What?
They're trying to turn it into the sport of kings. You got to have $1 million just to buy a damn ticket.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. See, here's the question to me, though. I don't know, Rick. This market's got about 2.5 million people in it. It's obviously it's a top 30 market, give or take, in the country. But, it's not New York where you got 18 million people in the metropolitan area trying to fill a stadium. You've got, a ninth of that, give or take. I don't know. There's a lot of money in this town. I don't know if there's as much as they think there is to sell PSLs for 10 to 20 grand a pop and up to, $60,000, $100,000 a pop. I don't, maybe there is. I don't know.
I haven't seen it.
Well,
it's not in my pocket.
Well,
I'm innocent.
You're innocent. Yeah. Well, hey, once this Trump economy starts humming, I think you got a shot there, Rick.
All right. Have a good day.
You too, buddy. I appreciate it. Now, listen. Now, you've got to find 50,000 people, give or take, right? Maybe it's 40,000. I don't know what the number is, but you got to find a lot of people that are going to dump tens of thousands of dollars between the PSL and the tickets to sign up for the Chiefs. Now, they may say to themselves and just say, hey, we're going to be on a roll here for the rest of the 2020s. We get a new stadium around 2030, give or take. Mahomes is going to be at that point early to mid-30s. We still should be a great franchise, at least consistently a playoff team. We think we can do it. And they might. I'm not saying they can't. But there is a question as to every market's different. What you can get away with in L.A. and New York, just based on pure population size, you may not be able to get away with in Kansas City. Right? That's the question. And they probably know the answer already. And that's where I said to myself, listen, they're going to do what they're going to do. And it's really as simple as that. Aaron and Liberty, go ahead. You're on KCMO. Got a minute.
Hey, I did the survey for the old stadium and renovating it. And I'm totally with you. Spending 15, 20 minutes of my time, I got to the point where I was just hitting buttons because it was annoying. But for me, I think that we got to the point where the question was, like, what do we want to do? But I think we're also forgetting all the people who paid kind of the lower prices. That's also bringing a winning team by the stadium being filled, by the camaraderie of tailgating, with also the loudness of the stadium. There's going to be a lot of people who pay big bucks if they go that route, and then seats be empty. And that also then goes into our team winning, because I think the camaraderie of Kansas City brings a bigger issue or a bigger thing. So
I am glad you brought that up, Aaron. And I may do the renovation survey because there's hopefully less of that PSL nonsense. Can you confirm or deny that?
Yeah, there's a little bit more. It goes in so much more depth of restrooms and that kind of thing, food and all that. I think we all are just kind of like, give us a couple questions, we'll answer it. But, they need to make sure that they bring in, some more money, and I get that. It's a business. But when you go that whole route of, thousands and thousands of dollars, it's going to get rid of some of the things that bring Kansas City and why people are coming to Kansas City because of that lower cost.
That is an excellent point, Darren. Thank you. And I don't think the Chiefs should discount what they've got with Arrowhead. The grass is not always greener.